Well, coming up on today's show, Panasonic say solid-state batteries could be 10 years away. Tesla acquires more capacity to deliver your new cars. And what happens to lithium-ion batteries when they're used? Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. In fact, wherever you are in the world, welcome to EV News Daily. It's Friday, 16th of November, and it's Martyn Lee here, and I've been through every EV story I can find today, picked out the best ones, and I've saved you the time of looking for them. Thank you very much to our team and our friends at myev.com. If you're in the USA and you're thinking about buying or selling a used electric car, so many more of them coming on the market every day now as those initial leases end, as people trade up and trade in, and there's a story actually about people moving on in today's podcast. Check out myev.com and you can learn about EVs along the way as well. Very few battery makers in the world have more knowledge of cell production than Panasonic. That's right, Tesla's long-term battery partner. In terms of producing the power behind the Model S and the 3 and the X and the Y. And yes, I intentionally put them in that order just to spell out sexy. I'm that much of a loser. Well, in an interview, Panasonic's North American Chief Executive Officer Tom Gebhardt told Business Insider that the hotly anticipated battery breakthrough, that is, solid-state batteries, won't make it into production electric cars for at least 10 years. Says Eric at Green Car Report, solid-state batteries, the batteries that replace the flammable liquid electrolyte in the lithium-ion batteries with a solid-state ceramic material, are expected to eliminate things like fire concerns and extend the life of the batteries. They speed up charging, they improve capacity. At the moment, they lose charge too quickly if you leave them overnight, though. It's one of the things they're having to fight really hard to fix on solid-state batteries. I mean, proper solid-state batteries. There's all sorts of various definitions of these, but I won't get into that now. Some of the solid cathode is being replaced at the moment with like a gel. It's like a halfway house, and people are calling them solid-state batteries. But anyway, others are considerably more optimistic about solid-state batteries. Volkswagen has announced it plans to have solid-state lithium batteries on the road by 2025. And reconstituted electric automaker Fisker says they have plans to put a solid-state battery in a car in 2020. Well, heck, look, with Thanksgiving, Black Friday, countdown to Christmas, then it's 2019. And Fisker say 2020, they'll be selling you a car with a solid-state battery in. Right. They've got undisclosed investment for some very heavy equipment maker Caterpillar, and they're helping them develop and produce them as well. But it's a huge task, and I'd love to see more details or even a working prototype that more people can get their hands on, if you like. Well, Tom Gebhardt says this, and I quote, "We're still pretty bullish on lithium-ion, but clearly understand that solid-state is something that we all want to get to at some point in the future," end quote. Well, the Green Car Reports newsletter is a good one to sign up to, by the way, and InsideEVs actually has a great article online earlier this week doing a deep dive into the new battery chemistry of the NCM 811 cells that are about to hit the market, possibly even in the new 60 kilowatt hour, or will it be a 64 kilowatt hour Nissan LEAF Plus, or the ePlus? That's 811, by the way. NCM 811 stands for 8 parts nickel, 1 part cobalt, 1 part manganese. And it's the cobalt particularly that is surrounding, there's some issues there. And actually very valid issues in how that is mined, the countries that comes from, and human rights and workers' rights in those countries as well. I'll put a link to the Green Car Reports article in the show notes. Well, Elon Musk just tweeted, he just tweeted about SpaceX and yet another successful rocket launch. But moments before that, he was tweeting about acquiring trucking capacity. And trucking, hell, I think he's gone and spent some money. Maybe it's just the language barrier between our two countries. I would say that we've acquired, so in work, for instance, I would say that we've acquired more resources, or we've managed to acquire some time from, I use that word in terms of we've got this. When Elon Musk says that we've acquired some trucking capacity, what he means is we've bought some trucks. We've bought trucking companies. Man, he's not afraid to get his wallet out, is he? Well, Tesla's checkbook, I should say. He says this in his tweet: Tesla just acquired trucking capacity to ensure Model 3 can be delivered in the US by December 31st if ordered by November 30. Skipping rail saves over a month for East Coast deliveries. All things considered, it's better to use trucks. Single load, unload, and direct-to-owner location. We'll also be using dedicated roll-on, roll-off fast ships for transporting cars to Europe and Asia in Q1. A major focus on minimising time from factory to owner. Did not fully appreciate the working capital impact until recently. End quote. Well, Fred Lambert then replied, can you elaborate on acquired, that word acquired trucking capacity? How did you secure it, says Fred. Elon replies, we bought some trucking companies and secured contracts with major hauliers to avoid trucking shortage mistakes of the last quarter. So when he says we've acquired some capacity, he means we've bought some companies. So those companies now part of Tesla. And that's interesting. I was thinking about this, actually. Of course, they're going to be making the Tesla semi-trucks. And I wonder if it works. It's a short-term play and it's a long-term play, acquiring trucking companies. So they will definitely have acquired some knowledge as well. If they have actually bought trucking companies, they will have acquired some good people with those companies. They will have acquired overnight some processes and systems. They'll learn about the ups and the downs of operating a haulage company. If they really have gone out and bought trucking companies in the stroke of a pen on their checkbook, they have acquired quite a lot, actually, as well as the hardware. So how many of those trucks can be hitched up to more Tesla semis as not just for testing, but actually when they start making these in 2020? It's an interesting thing to think about. I mean, it's just it kind of blows your mind when Tesla go, we need some more trucks. What should we do? Let's buy some. Well, Electrek elaborates that Tesla extended the deadline to order Model 3 and to get a delivery by the end of the year in order to get the full federal tax credit for electric vehicles. Tesla currently lists Model 3 deliveries on new orders between 4 to 10 weeks, depending on the configuration. But it did announce 2 weeks ago timelines to get the car by the end of the year. Those timelines are under 4 weeks if you can pick your car up from the Fremont factory, 4 weeks for the West Coast, 6 weeks for Central, and 8 weeks for the East Coast. Well, now Elon Musk is updating the timelines for all configurations, and he wants as many people as possible to get that full federal tax credit before it halves on January the 1st and then halves again halfway through 2019. Moving on to a plug-in hybrid, the new BMW plug-in, which is promising a range of 37 miles on electrons alone, is the BMW 330e. It's got a 0 to 60 dash of 6 seconds, which is only twice as slow as a Model 3. Sorry, tongue firmly in cheek. That's not bad for a fossil car, 6 seconds. You know, if you've got some time to spare, just twiddling your thumbs. Anyway, we now know that this plug-in hybrid is coming at least to the UK in July 2019, and that range of 37 miles should be good enough for plenty of commutes. And I know a few plug-in hybrid owners now, actually, that I've come to know either through the podcast or making contacts over the last year of me doing this, and a few of them actually have a little bit of sadness that they actually drive a plug-in hybrid because they like to do all of their miles on electric, and then when the fossil kicks in, they've just got that little bit of sadness that, my range is over now. And all of them will definitely be buying a full electric car when these hybrids are replaced. Top speed in all-electric mode is 68 miles an hour, and like I say, I think that most of these miles in this new era of plug-in hybrids will be done around town on your commute. 68 miles an hour, it's kind of okay. It's a 12 kilowatt hour battery, which is it's kind of okay. I get the feeling with battery costs dropping, then a lot of these makers that are going to be making plug-in hybrids over the next 3 to 5 years as a transition, as they pivot to pure battery electric cars. They're going to keep the battery sizes around that, but really with battery costs, cell costs going down to $100 per kilowatt hour. Really, you put a 20 kilowatt hour battery in the car, that's only $2,000. I know there's ancillaries to go around that and inverters and motors, but still, you're not saving that much money, but you're making the cars a little more restrictive in terms of how far they can drive on electric miles, and that could be the kicker for many people, thinking, only 37 miles on battery power, take a bit off on a winter's day. You know what, I'll just go full electric. So maybe it's a good thing that they're being stingy with battery capacity. Well, hopefully, these new hybrids, not just the BMW 330e, but this new era of the kind of second-generation plug-in hybrids, hopefully they also come with a very nice note when you buy them. And that note says, please don't plug your hybrid into a rapid charger for the next 8 hours while you go into the office for your workday. We can only hope. Love hybrid drivers, just please, not rapid chargers. Well, moving on, and this is all to do with the story that I mentioned earlier about people trading in, trading up and buying more EVs. Studies demonstrate that Tesla has forged a unique bond with its customers. Last year, Consumer Reports found that Tesla has the highest rate of customer satisfaction of all car brands. Now, according to more recent research conducted by Experian, it turns out these high levels of satisfaction are translating into exceptionally high rates of customer loyalty as well. This is according to an Evanex report today. They make often little featured blogs and articles that we see on InsideEVs. Experian found that Tesla owners show an even higher loyalty to the make than EV customers as a whole. More than 4 in 5 Tesla customers, 80.5%, will definitely buy or lease another Tesla when they change their car. Tesla has the highest level of make loyalty in the entire car industry, ahead of Subaru, that's down at 71%, and Ford at 72%. Experian also found that Tesla led the industry with a conquest and defection ratio of 13.77 to 1. I have no idea what that means, but if you do, I thought I'd include the stat. It's not something that we talk about here in the UK. Here's a big question that's asked by many and was asked by one of the big national newspapers in the UK today, The Telegraph. I was reading this when it said that while the sheer volume of EV batteries that will need to be repurposed or recycled is daunting, it's worth starting on the positive note that batteries in cars have a very long lifespan and are proving reliable. Most lithium-ion batteries will last about 8 to 10 years in EVs before their performance drops to 70% or less of when it was new. So what can be done with the batteries when they reach the point that they need to be reused or recycled, asked The Telegraph. I would love to know the data, by the way, that they've used to say that sentence, that after 8 to 10 years, the batteries go down to 70%. I don't doubt that there is data out there, but many of the current EVs on the roads aren't 8 to 10 years old. So how do they know? Many of the Teslas that are being used for cabs, for shuttles, limousine services, I should say, they're not taxis, are they? Things like Tesloop. Well, they're doing 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 miles and showing minimal degradation. There's a taxi company here in the UK that's been using Nissan LEAFs, and they're in the hundreds of thousands of miles now, the first generation LEAF. And they're still going strong. But anyway, not to get sidetracked, power storage for your home or business is a really big one. And I think more people thought that by now, EVs, the first generation EVs, would be coming off the roads and that they'd be using those battery packs to be repurposed and recycled into home storage. The problem is, the cars are still going. What about recycling them? Well, the Belgian-based Umicore is among the companies already offering recycling for lithium-ion batteries. What if other battery technology replaces lithium-ion, as we were talking about earlier on the podcast? Well, according to Peter Slater, he's the professor of materials chemistry and co-director of the Birmingham Centre for Energy Storage. Actually, I'd probably imagine he's in the UK, so it's Birmingham. It's the recyclability of solid-state batteries, he says, would present different challenges in terms of separating the components. In particular, it's likely that with solid-state batteries, we'd actually need some sort of chemical separation route, such as those being developed through the Faraday Institution's ReLib project. That's a really fascinating article, and I'll link through to that in the show notes. Final story today, and car-sharing firms are teaming up to find new ways to charge their cars when nobody's actually there to plug them in. Well, with Innovate UK and an American company, the US-based FreeWire Technologies, they're testing some benefits of recharging EVs whilst on the go. EVs on the streets of London could soon recharge without ever having to search for the nearest available charging station, thanks to this new wireless trial from Zipcar and FreeWire, reports Madeline Cuff for Business Green. FreeWire's mobile chargers are based on mobile battery units. Once you charge them via the mains outlet, you can then move them, I think they're literally on wheels, freely to charge vehicles wherever the vehicle is parked. The project is backed by Innovate UK and the Office for Low Emission Vehicles. It's part of a wider £40 million government scheme to develop technology and business cases for wireless charging for EVs for commercial users, such as taxis, service vehicles, delivery fleets. Wireless charging could also provide a potential charging solution for the millions of UK houses with no access to off-street parking, and for which finding a space to charge overnight can be more difficult. Disappointing this article didn't dig a little bit further, because they would have found exceptional innovation. Here in the UK, for instance, on one of the previous podcasts, on a Saturday podcast, we did an interview with a company called Urban Electric, and they have pop-up chargers which live down in the pavement on your regular street with on-street parking, so the kind of maybe older Victorian houses that are terraced houses, so built before cars were ubiquitous, no driveways, no off-road parking, but the Urban Electric pop-up chargers live below the surface, and there's plenty of them for every car parking space on the street, and then you can use your app. They will pop up out of the pavement, you plug in, and it has all the technology in it, which uses the same company that's making the lamppost chargers, which is Ubitricity, and that does all the billing for you as well, so it knows it's you, and because you have your own cable, and that's the bit that's unique to you, and that's the bit that charges you. So, I would love to have seen the article explore those. It did explore a little bit about wireless charging, and that does fascinate me. I know that Elon Musk says wireless charging is a red herring, and that it's plugging in a car is not a big deal, but my mind keeps going back to autonomous fleets. They're building the Model 3 with all of these sensors, all of these cameras, even a camera facing inside the cabin, which at the moment isn't being utilised, but you can see why they would put a camera inside the cabin facing all 4 or 5 passengers, because actually you want to keep an eye on what's happening to your car when your car is autonomous, out doing ride sharing, or you've hired your car out for half a day and your Model 3 is out on its own doing autonomous driving. But wireless charging in that situation with autonomous cars could be very useful, because the car would then drive itself to park itself over a wireless charging pad. I don't know. There's plenty of people who are saying that wireless charging is the future. Many people saying it isn't. I'm fascinated by it. I'd like to talk to people more about that. Maybe it's an idea for a future Saturday special interview on the podcast, which segues me nicely and conveniently onto tomorrow's show. We are talking to Patrick Sheriff. He's the Business Development Director of Engenie, a charging company here in the UK with a fascinating business model about why businesses should put chargers into their hotels, their shopping centres, their cinemas, their supermarkets. He's got a great theory as well about where you should put EV chargers. Spoiler alert, not next to the front door, because then they get iced. It's a fascinating interview, and I wish I had longer with Patrick, by the way. And you can hear that tomorrow as a Saturday special interview. The full thing, really, really interesting guy to talk to. And a fascinating company as well, based here in London. I went up to their offices earlier this week to have a chat, and I'll bring that to you tomorrow. And of course, tomorrow you get your Patreon bonus show as well for our exec producers and above. Thank you to our newest member of the Patreon community, and an enormously generous person to support the podcast, because he's super busy making his own content anyway. And that is someone who goes by the name of, with a screen name of the Plug Seeker. And if you're here in the UK and you use things like the charging apps, then you would definitely have seen the Plug Seeker, because he seems to spend all of his time updating the statuses of charging. It's like he puts so much into the EV community here, and is the latest producer of this podcast. Or as he reminds me, I haven't called it this in many, many, many weeks, it's the posh coffee level. It's $5 a month, and basically it's walking past a coffee shop thinking, well, I won't get one today because I support that podcast. So it's like $5 a month, and the $10 a month is what I call the super posh coffee, one with some foam on top, maybe a little thing inside it. So thank you very much to the Plug Seeker. If you want to follow his channel online, he's making some brilliant videos, by the way. Most recently, an episode on the commercial EVs and trucks market, the Low City conference. check out, if you search for the Plug Seeker online, I'm sure that you can find his content online, making some excellent stuff to watch and enjoy. Newest member of the Patreon community and signing up at patreon.com/evnewsdaily. Here is this week's question of the week, presented by myev.com. They've set this question, and you've got until Sunday to get your answers in. It's this. Either present or upcoming, which EV are you most excited about? Either on the market now, or we know it's on the roadmap to be on the market soon. Which EV floats your boat? Which one tickles your fancy? Let me know. The email address is hello@evnewsdaily.com. You can leave a comment on the YouTube comments or Facebook, or my blog has a feedback form. If you'd rather not use email, the website is evnewsdaily.com. There are 120 patrons of the show who I thank immensely every single day. And there are, if you fancy listening to any one of them, 297 previous episodes. Oh, we are barreling towards 300. All online from where you get podcasts from for free. Thank you very much to those who subscribe to the show. Just means you get it first, and you get it free, and you get it automatically. Come and say hi on the socials by searching EV News Daily. In the meantime, do have a wonderful day. I'll catch you tomorrow.